Welcome to Granbelm Weekly, the show about little girls and mechs. That's basically Fate if Fate had mechs and was cooler than Fate was. And it's about like mages and the descendants and their families and all this like interfamilial conflict and like intergenerational trauma and all this stuff. This is just me, deep diving deeper than anyone should go as usual. This is the show that I only get to cover intermittently because of my schedule. So the last time we covered the show, I think, was in episode 2, so a lot of stuff has happened since then. The familial connection between Shingetsu and the redheaded girl whose name I forget was revealed. We saw the whole like them having this like her mom and her sister still like Shingetsu, but she obviously doesn't because she feels like she was trying to replace her. Then we saw the second Granbelm of the series so far, and in that Mangetsu gets like super powered, she gets used to her mech, and we see the reveal of Ji Guanlong, which is like this sniper mech, which is like kind of piloted by 3 people, or it's piloted by Nene, the little like lolly in middle school, but she has 2 other sisters, and there's like triplets or something. They're not triplets, they're just sisters. So they help her pilot this, and the whole point of this mech is that it can sit back and just snipe people from a distance. Now this is supposed to be an original anime, but to me it feels kind of like some kind of like light novel or some visual novel or some video game type thing, because it has so many aspects of video game tropes in it. For example, Kuan, the white-haired girl who we saw earlier in the series, she has basically a stealth fighter mech, and she can go anywhere and like sneak behind people and basically just backstab them. It's like a rogue character set basically. And Ji Guanlong is like the long-range sniper type class, and she can like target people with magic and shoot missiles from afar, and she has to hide because she doesn't have any close range combat abilities, or at least we thought that back in the day. And then we see this there's an in-between episode where they're talking more about the consequences of Granbelm, and then like Kuan, her familial connection is revealed, why she's in Granbelm in the first place, because people really don't get into this unless they have a reason to get into this, and even Nene has a wish that she needs answered. And last episode we saw like basically Nene just up front just confronts Shingetsu, Mangetsu, and Kuan about the basically the alliance that they've created to defeat her and Ji Guanlong, and she says, bring it. Then we get the third Granbelm, and things go pretty crazy. We have a new battlefield, which again makes me think this is like Battle Royale with mechs. It's like PUBG with mechs. If someone wants to make this game, please send it to me, because this is my shit for real. Gundams in Battle Royale sounds good to me. So then they basically like confront Ji Guanlong using some combination of Kuan able to hear when magic is being used, and Mangetsu just stumbles onto it, like she can see it in the distance. They confront it, and they go like, oh hey, we've locked her down now, we can shut her down, she's just a sniper. And then she like transforms into a giant immobile like tentacle thing with giant claws, and she starts attacking them, and it goes crazy. People say the show isn't good. I'm like, are you watching the show properly? Because it has like this interfamilial drama. One of the bigger themes in the show is this intergenerational trauma that people inherit from their families, and they've been doing this for generations and generations, and they still feel like they have to preserve their family's honor and like fight for the wishes that their family never got, which is straight out of Fate, by the way. Fate, you get the Holy Grail, grants you a wish. Turns out in Fate, it's not all it's cracked up to be. We don't really know what it's going to be in this series, but I'm guessing it's going to be something similar, because these things rarely go as straightforward as intended. So they have to deal with their families and like the conflict between generational, like your dad killed my dad, or like your great granddad caused this schism between our 2 families, so now we don't really talk to each other anymore. And there are families taking over other families. It's just that complicated lore that you really see in the Fate series, and probably in a lot of other series of this type. So then we had like her flashback when Ji Guanlong finally gets defeated, when Mangetsu and Kuan and everyone defeat Ji Guanlong. We get this cutback of like what it means to actually lose at Granbelm, which is like one of the bigger things about the series. When you lose, you get kicked out of the whole like group. We saw one girl's mech get destroyed earlier in the series, and she tried to get back together with them, like, hey, give me another crystal, I can do this. She's like, nope, you're out. We're not taking you back. You're gone forever to us now. You're dead to us, basically. And we saw her, like, the ability to have her wish fulfilled get crushed. And Nene is this character that we've been connected to this whole time, just because she's so cute and she's, earnest and straightforward, and she's just trying to, represent her family, which are from Hong Kong, in this Granbelm. And she had such a unique ability as a character that was like she had to fight her own instincts of being like a more straightforward, upfront person to pilot this Jiguan Long from the back, and like snipe people, which really wasn't her personality. And in the end, she kind of had to revert to just straight up, close quarters combat, and didn't really work out for her at the end of the day. So she tried everything that she could. She did something that she didn't want to despite herself. And then she succumbed to, being herself at the end of the day. Still didn't work. Her dream was crushed. And just seeing those like strings come out of her hand, stop coming out of her hand, and she's like crying in a puddle, in a heap. It was pretty rough. So without further ado, episode 6 of Granbelm, let's get started. One of the hardest parts of the show has been remembering all the names. There's so many names. Every mech has a long-ass name. They all have family names, like Shingetsu's real name is like Ernesta, whatever. I can't remember all these names. So they do give you like a little intro at the beginning of the episode when they have that OP. They put all the names of all the mechs in there just in case you forgot. But they're so complicated, I forget them like 3 minutes in anyway. So I don't know why they bother, but it's just weird. This is an interesting development. So it turns out that the magic stones, the size of them governs how much power they have. And so if you have a bigger magic stone, the harder it is to control, but the more powerful it is. And now this family, which technically Ernesta is still a part of, by the way, she just doesn't like, or Anna just doesn't like that Ernesta is a part of it because she doesn't want her to overtake herself. And she's clearly more talented because she's made it this far with like a tiny shard of a magic stone, whereas Ernesta has got like the miniature stone that they give out to people. But she wants like the real big one. It's interesting to see that like this is her character motivation. We haven't really seen that much about Anna so far in the series. We're almost 6 episodes in. I don't know how long the show's gonna run. I'm gonna assume 13 episodes just because it's a smaller studio venturing into an action show for the first time ever. So I don't think they're gonna be take a huge risk and run a 2-core show. Probably gonna be a 1-core show. Look at her face when she hears that like you can't defeat Ernesta. This is her whole narrative is about like she's been told that she's the best, she's the greatest, she's gonna become the witch at the end of all this, like the princeps magic, whatever. And she now realizes that she's not even the best within the final 5, even though she has a bigger stone than the other person. And her mech is pretty cool. Like it can make clones of itself and attack people like 6v1. But at the end of the day, she's still not powerful enough to defeat Ernesta, who just so happens to have teamed up with a complete newbie out of nowhere who's not even from any magic family, which we haven't really been told much about that either, like why she's able to do all the things that she can do, even though she's not from any previous magic lineage. And one of the interesting things about the show is like there's so much magic outside of the world, even though they say magic is completely gone from this world. Like earlier in this episode, they showed Anna like lighting a thing on fire and then freezing it. It's like, hey, how are you able to do that if there's no magic and all the magic in the world is focused in that Magia Conatus thing that you're battling in every month? So many questions. Hopefully you get more answers at the end of all this. But this show is pretty character driven. Like a lot of the characters have their own motivations. We talked at length at the beginning of this episode about how Nene and Ji Guanlong, they had this whole thing, like they had this whole strategy and like motivation. And then Kuan has like to revive her sister. She needs the wish. Everyone's kind of motivated by selfless, motivations, which is good, I guess. And also helps that they're all cute girls. So I guess you sell more merch if all of them are relatable than only a few of them. But that's just me bringing my like cynical, capitalist viewpoint into all this. There are, of course, ways you can do that without having all cute girls or related. Villains sell figurines too, probably. But this is just a cool way to go about doing that. And by extension, we just get a whole bunch of really deep characters that have motivations and are all pretty well written, to be honest. So good on you, show, for doing that. Let's see what Anna ends up doing. We just saw one Granbelm, so this is probably going to be like the chill dialogue episode before we jump into the next episode. So let's keep watching. So she says she has no reason, but really, every single episode we're shown the reason why she has to participate in this, because Mangetsu's like this person who was completely useless and mediocre before this, and every time she makes food of any kind, everyone always goes out of their way to remark how like just normal and just plain it is, even though she tries so hard for it to be anything else but that. To me, she has like the most personal reason to be in this, but I guess she's the kind of person who wouldn't be interested in having a personal reason. She wants like an external, familial, some kind of societal reason. Like if her sister was in danger, she would definitely go into that to help her sister. She even feels like the other people who are trying to help their families and do something more noble in her eyes deserve this whole like princeps magic thing way more than she does, which is of course what makes her such a great character, because she's willing to sacrifice all this, but at the end of the day she still wants to, participate in Granbelm, because the first time that she's felt meaningful or useful in any reasonable capacity in her life, and that's what makes her such a good character. And of course Shingetsu has her own thing, but she's also, part of her character identity is that she sticks to Mangetsu so closely and like supports her from the very beginning of this whole show. Like this beginning of the whole show, Mangetsu got taken into the Magio Conatus and she got this White Lily mech. Since then she's been on her side this whole time, even though at the very end of the day only one person can get the wish. That's just how Battle Royale works. This is why the show is good, people. You should watch this show. Literally brings a scythe out of nowhere to just kill this woman. Oh my god. Okay, so she's been pushed and marginalized by her whole family, who like resent her now because she thinks she's great, but she actually may not be all that great. And she's kind of come to doubt herself too, because she's figuring out that she's not really going to make it to the top, like I already said. So she's just lashing out in ways, and she's directed all her anger at Ernesta, who she thinks is going to replace her, especially since she's been betrayed by that blue-haired girl now. There's no going up anymore. It's all down from here. This is that downward spiral we've heard so much about. We get to see it firsthand. This whole episode is dedicated to Anna. Slice away, Anna. Let's see. Oh, yikes. Ernesta was adopted in the first place so she could take the place of this family's mage, and so that Anna wouldn't have to do it. Oh my god. It's like someone telling you like, yeah, we really wanted someone who could be smart, but like you're kind of stupid, so we adopted this other person to be smart for us and become the doctor and lawyer that we rightfully need in this house. Your services are no longer required. You can just be a lazy bag of bones and sit in the back of the house and read manga all day or whatever. That's like the equivalent of what just happened to Anna. I would cut my own head off at this point with that axe, Anna. You're a stronger person than me for not doing that. Yo, this is absolute character destruction. I mean, this character is gonna destroy herself now. What can she do? She's just gonna drop out of Granbelm and like move to the countryside or something? She's never gonna do that. That's entirely antithetical to her character up until this point. My god, Sho, you are definitely giving Anna a hard time today. And now for an improvised ending. So that was episode 6 of Granbelm. We saw Anna basically get character assassinated this episode, and for some reason the show's decided that she's just going to take it, which was unexpected for me, honestly. I definitely thought she was going to strike back and maybe kill Ernesta or some crazy shit, because she is that kind of crazy character to do something like that. But no, she just took it in a probably like a more like positive way than I would have expected. And that's a good twist, because for me that means the story can move on from now, and she can support Ernesta in a way, because remember, the way that they phrased it to her is that Ernesta loves you at the end of the day, so you do have to like treat her with that kind of respect, because she's been making you think that your magical powers are real for all this time, because she loves you and she thinks you're family. So you pushing her aside because you think she's going to replace you, Anna, is not really the way to go. So good on Anna for having the strength to deal with that and accept that in a way. And I hope she can help Ernesta win the, Granbelm at the end of the day. That might be interesting. Episode 6, solid episode. I really like how we're switching between dialogue episodes and action episodes. And especially last episode when I was watching it, just the way that I catch up on old episodes of the show that I haven't seen yet, I watch it at a higher speed than usual, and some of the battle scenes got so crazy that I had to slow it down again. Whereas with other shows, like for example to the Abandoned Sacred Beasts, that isn't really the case, because that show is so poorly animated when it comes to the action scenes that if you speed it up and watch it at 2x, it actually makes it look better most of the time. So if you're looking to watch that show, I'd recommend you give that a shot.
It just makes the action scenes look better in my opinion. But for this show, the battle scenes are already so crazy and they're really well done. Like the cutaways of the characters, you know, talking from outside their mechs. They don't really show the inside of the cockpit as much as you would have seen in like older mech shows, and it makes it really feel like a video game almost, because you're talking to them and they just cut in like some kind of cutscene while you're having a battle. And I hope they do make a game of this. Maybe this is adapted from a game. You guys always seem to know more than me what is adapted from what. People said they know that the Sarah Zenmai was adapted from a novel, whereas I didn't. But all in all, I would say a pretty solid episode of the show. No idea if I'll get to cover it next week. This is already pretty jank. I'm recording this outside as is, so who knows what can happen. But anyway, that's it for this week. Granbelm episode 6. Pretty solid episode of a pretty solid show. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next week.